What's the name?
New Yorkers Against Gun
New
Violence.
Yorkers.
And we can talk about political change. Who's going to be 18 in November?
I'm already 18.
All right, yeah. So who's registered to vote? All right. I know, can't say it.
Welcome to Talk Back for Teens. I'm your host Layne, and today's topic is gun violence. I'm joined here today with Teen Empowerment. We have Rise Up Rochester and also Healing the Hurt. These are teen organization groups, and we're also joined with my adult co-host, Mr. Gary Pudup, with New Yorkers Against Gun Violence. I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourself.
My name is Tyrese Harper.
My name is Nassim Tillman.
My name is Jamel Harmon.
My name is Tremere Fearing.
My name is Autumn Johnson.
Fremonte Strong.
Janetta Cook.
Jacarl Hill.
Shalinda Bowler.
Robert DeBose.
And I'm Yusuf Ahmadi.
We're glad to have you guys here today. Now I want you guys to tell us a little bit about your program. Let's start off with Teen Empowerment.
So Teen Empowerment is a youth-based organization located on Genesee Street, and basically what we do there is hire youth from ages 14 through 20 to organize different events based upon the different systematic issues that we face here in Rochester on an everyday basis. Also, we tackle different initiatives such as solutions, not suspensions, and Black Lives Matter and things like that, just to bring awareness to these issues and tackle them as a unit.
Rise Up Rochester is a community-based organization where our main focus is to prevent violence in the city of Rochester all around, and we go into schools and talk to kids and teach them peaceful ways to resolve problems. We also put up billboards and everything showing statistics of violence in Rochester and how it doesn't have to end that way.
All right, last but not least, Healing the Hurt.
We are also a community-based organization that promotes and advocates events that leads to people informing each other about ways that we could prevent violence and stop it from happening in our community.
And now let's speak to Mr. Gary, our adult expert, and he's going to tell us a little bit about New Yorkers Against Gun Violence.
Thanks, Layne. Yeah, New Yorkers Against Gun Violence is a statewide organization. It's based out of New York City, but it extends throughout the state. And our mission is to promote legislation, to get laws passed that will help reduce gun violence.
Let's speak to the kids about how gun violence affects them and their community. How exactly would you explain or give us an idea of how gun violence affects your community?
In my community, I would say Rochester as a whole has created a whole lot of fear and trauma because, as we said before when we were talking, it seems as though everybody has either directly or indirectly been affected by gun violence. So it's just it creates a whole dynamic of people being scared, leaving the house, wondering if they're going to come back or not. And it's always that caution, where even in the daytime and in public places where we used to be able to have fun and be safe, they are no longer safe for us. So we don't really know what else to do. It's just a state of confusion and chaos.
I mean, when it gets to the point to where you have to, pray for traveling mercy just to walk to the corner store and back, knowing that bullets can hit anyone at any time, it's just you become broken with your city. You become lost and confused. I mean, just last August 19th, I just lost 3 people, in a mass shooting on Genesee Street. Just this June 11th, my best friend was gunned down in a hotel, I mean, if you ask me, how has gun violence affected me, I would say that gun violence has basically broken me down.
And I feel like all these issues rise because, guns have become so accessible to everybody in our community. It's mainstream to have, to have a weapon on you at all times. It's mainstream to just, it's okay. It creates this persona that it's okay to just be shooting people. And it's people become insensible to that. And that's the biggest issue in our community, I feel like. And because of this, that's why we want to raise gun violence awareness, because it's not okay to have a gun. It's not okay to be 15, 16, shoot each other on the streets. People die every day, and it's not a game anymore. It's serious, and this is reality in Rochester.
And now let's get a little bit of information about gun violence and maybe some of the numbers, how it affects our community.
Sure. Nationwide, there's about over 30,000 people a year die from gun violence. And about 10,000 of that is street crime. And so the other 2/3 end up being suicides or accidents. But right now in the United States, and Rochester is part of these same statistics, is that it has become one of the leading causes of death, especially among young black males. And in some states, it is the leading cause of death. And it's both from street crime and also from suicides and accidents. So when we look at this is obviously something that affects, you and your community. And actually, one of the laws that we're trying to pass, and I'd like to get some of your input on it, is when you encounter people out on the street and they have guns, and primarily we're talking about handguns, right? Is where did they tell you that they're getting the guns from?
Don't tell us.
Yeah.
They
They
usually
don't
like
bring it up at all.
yeah. It's just like usually because like it happened to me a couple times. Like I was just walking home, and like dude would like pull up, and maybe he was like from the other side of town, and he thought I was like from the west side, or like this one dude like something had happened with his sister, and he thought that I was the one who did it. So they like pulled up on me, and like they pulled it out on me, and like I'm not saying anything. I'm more in shock,
Yeah.
I'm not about to ask him like, yo, where you got the gun from? Cause he really gonna be like, yo, if I tell you, now I gotta use it on you. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's better to just like, not really. Like that's not the most important thing at the time. The most important thing is finding out how I'm about to get from in front of that gun and back home. Cause I got 2 little sisters and a mom, like my pop and my older brother and stuff like that. Like they still need to see my face at the end of the day. So like I never really thought to just be like, where you get the gun from,
I've never been in a situation to where I was like directly like put in front of a gun, but I know people that carry without license and stuff like that. And when I ask them like, where do you get the gun from, all they can tell me is like, oh, my boy, you know what I mean? So it's like, where did he get the gun from? So it's never really like a straight answer. It's always like a runaround. Like I got it from this person, they sold it to me, for a discounted price or something like that. It's kind of like a loophole. It's like
Sure.
Like never lived in the gated community, I live in the heart of the hood, and I lived there all 18 years of my life, and whenever you see people come into the hood with guns and stuff like that trying to get their guns off, it's generally rich white boys coming into the inner city trying to either exchange guns for drugs or make a couple dollars, and 9 times out of 10 they're getting it from their fathers who are who were in the military or who just have guns, a gun permit, so we have guns all over the house. They come in the city with shotguns, sawed off and stuff like that, and they making a killing because now we in a day and age to where people feel as though they need protection, so now they're buying guns. Like if they don't buy a gun, then it might potentially be like the end of their life, so it's pretty much coming from like the birds.
Well, it's important that you bring that up because one of the statistics that Layne was asking me about is that we know here in the city of Rochester, we'll take a step back for a second. For the longest time, everyone would say, places like Rochester, that the guns were coming in from what was called like the iron pipeline. They would be bought down south, brought up, from the south because southern states have very little regulation or control over their firearms.
Right.
But when we start to look at guns, like where they actually come from, once they're used in a crime and we can trace them back, that most of the guns actually come from Rochester and Monroe County. That they're not coming from other states. But where they are coming from is like from burglaries and thefts when people leave them in cars. And so, and what you say is like very important because if they're people that these are guns that are being left unlocked in the homes, then young people that really shouldn't have them anyway, like 16, 17, 18-year-olds that wouldn't legally have them, are stealing them and bringing them into the city.
I was going to back up what Vermonte was saying about the guns coming from the burbs because, like you were just saying, I was going to mention that that nobody in the city of in the city has permits or like licenses to have like guns. So where do they get them from? It's like you said, burglaries in the suburbs, or like teens of the urban parents, stealing their guns from their parents just because the guns are not locked up properly, and it's just like kids just have they have access to those weapons, and then they bring them into the city, and city kids get a hold of them, and that's where the street violence comes from, from the firearms.
Now let's talk a little bit about some of the leading causes as far as gun violence when they're being used. One of the topics that I wanted to tap into was suicide. I wanted Gary to give us a little bit of information on suicide and how that's connected with gun violence and even inside our community.
Sure. Very often in the news that we hear about gun violence, and everybody assumes right away that it's crime. And frankly, what do we hear? Well, it's the black on black crime, and if we just get rid of the black on black crime, our gun violence would go away. Right. Well, that's only one part of it. These are complex problems. And when we think of it, again, remember I said there was over 30,000 people a year die from gun violence.
Right.
But only 10,000 of those are street crime. So we have to address that. But again, 2/3 of that is suicides. And there are a little bit of accidents, but the accidents are small. All right? So, one of the things that we could talk about too is, and it's young male blacks that are shooting themselves with these guns. And what would, as you go through life, and the young man here mentioned about a sense of fear in the community, and you don't want to go out without saying a prayer, hoping that you make it home. What is that sense that there's all this gun violence out in the community? How does that wear on your mental health? What does that do to you as a person? Like, how do you feel about that? How does it make you feel?
It makes me feel like people so focused on when police officers are killing black people and they want to rally and protest, but when you got black people killing black people in their own hood, all everybody want to do is just write on Facebook like rest in peace, da 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 da, junk like that. That's their main goal. But when you see a white person killing them, then everybody want to go out in the streets and say, oh, this got to change, da 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 da. But nobody wants to talk about the change that black people have to face, like in themselves, like in their own communities.
Well, although what he's saying is very valid, I have to disagree with it because it's institutional. Because it's not like I just want to go outside and kill another person that looks like me. There has to be a reason why that's happening. It's because of these limited resources in the community, or like just always being in a state of how am I going to get through the day? How am I going to feed my family? It's always like, because gun violence comes from, drug dealing and being on the streets and like that, because the kids are not out there just to be out there. They're out there to make money for their family. They're out there to, they're doing something out there. So it's like the reason why there is this black on black violence is because there's limited resources and kids don't have access to what they need, so they feel like they have to go out and fight for it, and they feel like they have to fight each other, when in the big picture, it's coming from the outside. It's people from the outside controlling how you are in this community, So that's how I feel about it.
Too many times people use their circumstances as an excuse to go, like, drop out of school. Like, I'm going to drop out and do this because we ain't got this. So they think just because your parents grew up this way or their parents grew up that way, that don't mean that's how you got to grow up. You got to have that sense of drive to stay in school, get your education, and make it out and do what you got to do to succeed. And like, going on the corner, that's just short term. That's short term.
Yeah,
like,
I believe everyone should have that understanding that education and hard work gets you somewhere. But at the end of the day, you do want to realize that there are harsh realities. You do have to walk and catch that bus and sit at that bus stop, that corner for an hour, and you have to deal with the things that are actually going on day by day in your community. So you always want to work hard and have those long-term goals, but we're talking about gun violence and how it affects us today, So
Okay. Because in Teen Empowerment, like a week ago, we were asked a question similar to this. Like, what do we think of, what do we think the first thing that came to our mind when we heard gun before, like when we were younger and now? And I said now, it's a false sense of protection. Because there's ways to, like, restrain somebody or, etc. without killing them. There's no need for a firearm that's lethal that can take a life in like 0.5 seconds instead of using a taser or something. That's like speaking for the cops. But it's just like what they were talking about, like the black community. You got to think, like I said, the fear before, but it's also like I don't know, like, if it's gonna be an accident, whether I die or on purpose. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, even if somebody doesn't have an intent to, because there are guns everywhere, a gun can go off because they dropped it or something, it was on them, and I'm shot. You know what I'm saying? So even if the intent is not there, that does not change the whole interval of me still being dead. You know, so it's just like no matter how you look at it, if the gun violence go down, as long as guns exist, we are still at risk, regardless of what. As long as it has a bullet in the chamber, and as long as it's all safety, somebody can be killed.
You, if I can ask, so in some of the organizations here work with peaceful resolutions to problems. Do you think that just the mere presence of the number of guns in the community is, increases the likelihood that someone's going to get shot? Because so very often we hear from groups like the National Rifle Association and that, like, really what we need to do is if we just give everybody more guns, the violence will go down because everybody will be afraid.
Of course.
What do people think of the NRA when they say we just need more guns in the community?
That you basically trying to start up a purge. Like, somebody been watching way too many movies. Like, you really got to stop and think. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seemed like everybody saying RIP more than congratulations for graduating high school. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you taking away guns, that's just gonna bring up the rate of graduations and congratulations, and a lot of people living to see the next day. You give everybody more guns, that's just going to give them an excuse to boom, go out there, kill somebody, then try to make up a fake excuse as to why they did it. And then on top of that, like, even if it's legal, you know what I'm saying, like, they still gonna try to find a way to do it even if it was wrongful, you know.
I mean,
and on top of that, like, you're not making no money that way. So
And oftentimes people, like, when they bringing more guns into the community, I feel like that's not gonna help at all, because it's a lot of times that people, they carry guns or they have guns and they don't use it for their protection. It's like they could use it for retaliation, they could use it for, other purposes, like, so it's just putting more guns into the community. Yeah, it's gonna raise the fear, because it's like, now I know everybody has a gun, everybody can protect themselves, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna go down. There are still needs, like poverty still exists, like in our communities. We still want for things that we don't have, like, so I feel like it's gonna be like a bad.
Speaking on the aspects of the death rates, it's common sense to remove let's not talk community, let's talk like the whole picture, just the U.S. in general. Like, if you were to take away the weapons, of course, like, mass killings would go down. Of course, there'd be no way for somebody to shoot somebody and kill them in like 10 seconds rather than, fist fighting or something like that, because the death toll is definitely, it's going to go down. It's common sense. If there's no guns, nobody's going to be getting shot. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Sure. So would you disagree with like a presidential candidate that says maybe if we just gave everybody more guns, there'd be fewer shootings?
100%.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to lead to anything but, more genocide.
Right.
And
Well-
it's almost as if that's, well, not almost, it's evident that that's pretty much what they want, They and when I say they, I mean like the government and, just as a whole, they like push us up against a wall, like how you were just saying about school. We have the school to prison pipeline, which sends us straight to jail from school. So now, piggybacking off of what Yusuf said, we out in the corners and stuff, and we build a more or less take mentality. It's not like we have diplomas and we can go and get a job at McDonald's, because you need diplomas just to get a job at McDonald's.
Right.
It's not like we could just walk up and go get a job at a desk, or because you need diplomas to go and get that job at that desk or in that office.
Now, in closing, I just wanted to ask you guys, how do we make that change? How do we go home after this and change gun violence in our community, whether it is with the people we know who live in our community, whether it is our protectors, our police in the community? How do we change?
I think just, pay attention to what's going on politically, because just a couple of days ago we went to an informational meeting or something about gun violence, where they had legislative, they had representatives sitting there, like they had big people, and then like there was 15 people in the room when there could have easily been 30, 40, 50, saying that saying that there needs to be laws on guns, because it's not safe for our community to have all those weapons in here.
How do we make the change?
I think it starts with the community. We go out more active in the community, show people that we care. Like, they don't need to go down that road to shoot somebody or kill somebody and take them away from their family. Like, it's not needed.
I think that basically there's a church on every corner, and I'm a firm believer that I go to church, you know, and there's no reason why we continue to do the things that we do, but we all should be in somebody's church, and if we stay there and pray, there'll be less violence in the community as there is right now.
Thank you. And in closing, I'd like to ask Gary, what are the next steps as far as New Yorkers against gun violence?
Well, we're working on trying to pass a state law that would require safe storage of firearms that would address some of this problem, so we would have less guns being stolen and brought into the community.
I'd like to thank you guys for being here today. It's Talk Back for Teens, signing out.
Crashing, hit a wall. Right now, I need a miracle.
And we can talk about political change. Who's going to be 18 in November?
I'm already 18.
All right, yeah. So who's registered to vote?
Reaching out,
All right.
call your name, but you're not around. I say your name, but you're not around. I need you, I need you, I need you right now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Don't let me down. I think I'm losing my mind now. It's in my head, darling. I hope that you'll be here when I need you.
We should talk about that. How do you want change, right?
Don't let me down.
This is going to be a big election in November. We're talking about Donald Trump. Yeah.
Don't let me down. Don't let me down.
So first we're gonna hit off
At
on
a time I really thought
we're gonna hit up
you were on my side, but there's nobody
and then we're gonna fall back
by
on
my
our
side.
elections. And,
No,
well,
no.
Let's talk about Blue Lives
I
Matter.
need you, I need you, I
And then
need
we'll
you
jump into
right
the
now.
election. If there's
Yeah,
anything
I need
left,
you
guys
right now. So don't let me down. I think I'm losing my mind now. It's in my head, darling. I hope that you'll be here when I need you the most. So don't let me down. 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 Ooh, I think I'm losing my mind now, yeah. Ooh, I think I'm losing my mind now, yeah. I need you right now. Yeah, I need you right now. So don't let me down. I think I'm losing my mind now. It's in my head,